pause it for a second.
This is Claire.
And Nene, Empress Nene and Queen Claire.
Yeah, and this is our first time going live. So, we've had a little bit of a learning curve, as you do when you first go out. But here we are. So,
Yeah.
welcome again to our show. And
Under
so, what
the
are
red
we going to
tent where wise women speak. And this is our episode 2 of our series, ongoing series, which is The Secret to the Gift of Friendship.
Yeah. And Nene and I have a very special friendship. I feel like, it was funny because after our the first episode that we did, and literally we hadn't even practiced or anything, we just went for it. And it was a really great testament to our friendship. We just dove in, we went, hey, we got this, we know each other so well. And I think there's something to say about when you have a friend that just knows you and you know them. And so I'm not sure who out there, I'm sure all of us have one of those friends in our life. And it's and if you don't, it's a blessing to have a friend where you just know each other and you don't have to explain anything. How do you feel about that, Nene? I mean, that's how I feel about you.
That's how I feel also. I just want to say, for the women that don't have that, maybe you haven't been looking in the right places. There are some women that are just trapped in hard women relationships. And so you may not be attracting the right energy for the relationship that you want. And so I think it's partly the clarification. Yeah. Knowing yourself first and honoring yourself. And then I would almost say like magnetizing the right people to you. So it's not an instant gratification necessarily, because we're friends for over 20 years. And it's not that we've ever had to work at it, but we do pay attention to each other. Yeah. And we give each other the love and the friendship. It's not that we have grand expectations of each other either.
Well, I think the thing that I love and that I find with you, which is that we just accept each other. Like we accept each other. We're different. We're definitely different. We have similarities. We have our annoying personality traits. Trust me, I have some really annoying ones, and so does she. But somehow in these,
Claire.
Yes. But somehow in this, we don't care about that. We just stay focused to this place where we love and accept each other for the good and for the crappy. Because I'm not going to say bad. I don't think there's any bad, but there are, there's frustrating moments. I know I have my side of my personality that can be quite like, oh God, she's getting into her perfection. And then they can get into her details. And I'll be like, oh, don't worry about that. And that's what we do. But we kind of go, okay, it doesn't matter. There's no energy there. And I'm sure, I know that there's other relationships I have where I'm careful. Like I don't know, Nene, how do you feel about that? I don't know if you feel that, because I know you have a different relationship with women, but for me, a lot of women, I still feel this need to be careful about what I say, how I share, because I don't want to upset someone or hurt someone's feelings. So I'm aware of that.
I think that maybe I felt that more when I was younger. As I've gotten older, I have to say I'm pretty, and you should have this too. Having a moon in Sagittarius, I pretty much say it like I feel it, but not in a mean-spirited way. So, I'll see like another point of view and I'll say it. And I know that people sometimes look at me like, what are you talking about? So I get that in response, but I think everyone always knows that. And I always have said this, good thing this lifetime I've chosen good, because we can certainly go to our dark side and our shadow side, right? And we can stay there and lurk there. But I feel that I do choose good, and I choose then, kind of like a Pollyanna, I always say, to see the good in people.
Yeah, so I have a question. You just talked about the dark side and the shadow, and there may be lots of people out there listening that they don't know what that means. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, I would say, I mean, we all have perceptions of ourselves. And, if you're thinking you're a good person and you're always in the right and you're always the one that other people do things to, it's like I would say, like, it's the yin and the yang, right? It's the light and the dark. There's always the sunshine, there's always the nighttime. And then depending on where you are, your perspective, I mean, sometimes you're in the sun, sometimes you're in the darkness. Yeah.
Right.
And so the dark side is that side of you that maybe you've hidden or suppressed, what we call, when we're doing the work, like the shadow side, that side of us that we really don't want to acknowledge, but the side that we need to take responsibility for, because it affects us in our health, it affects us in our relationships. And it's that side, it's probably the wounded child in us that needs to find expression someplace. And so if we don't acknowledge that we've got, all things, I mean, we're composite of, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So
Right.
depending on the day and the framework, I mean, we get to make a choice about that. So we can stay in the darkness, we can stay in the light, we can stay in the ugly, but just know that we're composite of all those things. And the thing that I always want to express is that we can make that choice, but we have to acknowledge it, because otherwise then we project that darkness or that dark side or that shadow side onto other people. So we think, oh, it's them that's doing it to us. And
I
it's
know
about them
anytime.
and us, rather than, oh, it's all me. This is my reality. This is my
That
world.
is the hardest thing, everyone. And that is one of those where we have to look at ourselves. And that's like what I've always noticed, that if I am triggered by someone, or I feel, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I think they might be upset. Are they offended by me? That is when I have to go and look at myself, because
And
I'm
that's the good
projecting
girl
onto them
syndrome.
something I have no idea about or whatsoever. And I
That's
just feel like this is a component where, when it comes to friendships, that I really do feel shows up in many relationships for women. I mean, I've heard women talk about this many, many times. I've had lots of conversations with women about that. Like, how do you get that great girlfriend? How do you have a good friend? Um, and I
probably
think
it's being a good friend, wouldn't you say?
I think I'm a really good friend, everyone. I feel like I'm like, what's the word? Huh.
Perfect.
I want to be my friend.
Perfect in every way. Oh, what's the matter with girls? Yeah.
There are lots of people that maybe don't really like me, and I'm always really shocked. What do you mean you don't like me? I'm fabulous. Not so much. But
Well,
anyway, but
we don't
joking.
need to be loved and liked by everybody, right?
No,
So that's the other thing. And I just said, like, it's the good girl syndrome. So I think we both grew up with that, being, girls that you grew up in the church. I grew up as a wannabe.
I
I
want to
want to
be.
be, meaning like I had to force my mother to, like, send me to my first Holy Communion because I wanted to be really married to God. But I realize now that, everybody laughs. My family used to laugh about that, but that's the good girl in me that wanted to be so pure and so innocent and so loving. And it's the
Yeah.
highest realm of who I could be. But, it came from a place of, like, why would I want to deny myself? Like being in a convent. I don't know that I ever wanted to be in a convent, but the idea that I wanted to deny myself to be good, and I had to be good to please everybody.
Right.
So, as we walk through our steps in life and we find women or girls and girlfriends, I think we start to kind of explore all those different dimensions. And it's the conversation that brings us closer. It's those deep, deep into the night conversations that kind of lets us reveal our souls and our inner longings and our desires. And, to be in a safe space and that's what we have. We've created a safe space for each other and ourselves to
Right.
express that. I mean, and sometimes, we express fears, we express joy, laughter, always laughter. So I think that's the bond.
Always laughing.
Yeah, it's always brought us together, because ultimately, we're laughing at each other, but not in a mean way, just as the laughter of life, the joy. And there's pain and suffering behind that as well, right?
Right. Well, the laughter is, I mean, for me, I don't know, it's just I feel safe. When I'm laughing a lot with girlfriends, that's because I'm really feeling safe with those girlfriends. My girlfriends in England that I've known since I was like 7 and 11. Now we have a Zoom call because we have a women's group together. And I'm literally telling you, we get on our Zoom call and we just laugh for an hour and a half. We have so much fun because we just look at each other and start laughing because we know each other's deepest, darkest secrets. We know all the little crevices, the personality traits, all that stuff. And we accept each other. It's just, they live in England and I'm the one in America. So that was one of the gifts of COVID for me, was to be able to reconnect with my girls in England. So that is a fun call. But I want to go back to this one thing about the friendship, because when I was younger, I think I was in my mid 30s, and I was always feeling like
Like yesterday, Claire.
yes, I wish it was, but it was a long, long time ago. Anyway, so when I was a younger soul in my mid 30s, I really had an issue with friends. Like, I didn't think I had any friends. I didn't think I was a good friend. I didn't think anyone liked me. And then when I did have a friend, I didn't know if they were going to stay my friend. I had a lot of trust issues. And I remember I was in therapy for a while, and her name was Joan Martin, Dr. Joan Martin. She was wonderful. And she just said to me, Claire, this is the trick I'm going to tell you. There's no way that everyone is going to like you. And to think that you are seeking for everyone to like you is basically really narcissistic. To think that everyone has to like you and to think that you would be actually that fabulous that everyone would like you is kind of like crazy. So she said, the minute you can accept that there will be lots of people that will not like you, they're just not going to be interested in what you have to say. They're not going to like your hair color. They're not going to like the way you walk, the way you smell. I don't know anything about you. They won't like your laugh. And then there's going to be people that love you, and they just will resonate to you and you will resonate to them. And I think that was a real, as silly as that may sound, I never had thought about that concept before until then. I was so desperate to feel accepted, and I just wanted everyone to accept me, and I would do anything to try to prove that I was, and you said it, the good girl, that I was a good girl, I was a good friend, like, I'm that good person. And some people just were not going to have it. They were like, I really don't care, Claire.
Yeah.
You're just not someone I want to hang out with.
I think it's a real issue with girls growing up today with that, low self-esteem and self-image, because, with the social media and everything, and we're looking always for external gratification. We're looking for external accolades, like, oh, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful, you're so this, you're so that, instead of really developing it from the inside out. So then when you don't get that accolade and you don't get that love and adoration, and you may get bullying, just kind of the evil side of that, then who are you then? Because if you're always looking for external recognition and you only get it from some people, you think, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, nobody loves me. And so you can really expand on that. And that's why I think we're seeing so many girls and boys as well going through this deep depression, because they're looking for that external world rather than really taking the time to know themselves.
Well, and I think that's why this is such an important conversation, because there is that place where we feel we're looking, like I was saying a few minutes ago, where we want the world to accept us. We want our friends, our peers to like us. But the truth is, some people are going to like you, but some people are not. It's just the way life is. Not everyone can like us. But I think it's also
as simple as, some people love oranges and some people love apples. Some people hate bananas and some people love broccoli and some people hate cauliflower. So we're just another fruit in the world, and you attract certain things and you attract energy, you attract people. Some people love blonde, some people love brunette, it's just, and I think that's all fine, because there's enough people in the world, there's enough fruit in the world, there's enough everything in the world. It's just, I think when we start judging blonde is good and brunette is bad, we get into that patterning of what's good and what's bad, what's higher, what's lower. And that's where I think we're in this global conflict, really, of judging each other, criticizing each other, and just saying, like, hey, we're all here on the same planet. We're
Right.
all here really wanting the same thing. We all want love. We all want recognition. We all want happiness. We all want to live our full lives, but we get trapped. And so I think that's the conversation, as we enter this new decade, this new century. I'm excited about what's to come. And I think, and that's really how we started our conversation about being smart women, being wise women, being the elder women now that we have a voice and a platform. It's like I feel a personal responsibility. I think you do also.
No, I do.
Share our wisdom, right?
I think the thing that I think about what I went through when I was young, and there wasn't that support. There wasn't anyone you could listen to or talk to. Now, I think now there's a lot more out there, obviously, with social media the way it is now, but a lot of it's also really unhealthy. And so I really felt that I really want to support all women, but really also young women, because I feel like that to understand about friendship and have that sense of self-esteem, that you're worthy and that you're each and every one of us is worthy to love ourselves and to be loved and accepted.
Yeah.
And yes, there are always going to be people that will not. That's just part of being human, that will not accept you and not like you, but that doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean anything. That's the one thing I learned, and it took me years. And if I could help another young girl recognize that in herself now, that would be a happy day for me. So they didn't have to go through all the crap and crud that we went through. They could maybe bypass some of it. And I think the young
rise with women mentors on a spiritual level, I would say. There were women that like were the first women to go to college and first women scientists and all of that. But, for me, I was the first person to graduate college in my family. But it was more than that. I mean, there was no real spiritual dimension to women in my life, I guess, I mean, looking back, I won't say that necessarily, but they were not in a teaching mode. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same, like, not down the wise women,
well, I think also when we were younger, like I remember, like my mother, she worked, but she was very much like rebelling in that time in the 60s, where it was, she was stepping into her power as a woman, but yet she still was coming from that dogma and that place where women, the way I was kind of brought up was women should be seen and not heard. We don't want to hear your opinion, but you can look pretty and you can cook and you can clean and you can work.
With the women too.
You can work and bring money in, but that's my money and I'll hand it out to you for the groceries, kind of thing. So I feel like
that more of an Italian matriarchal family dynamic. So the women were powerful, but they were loud, really loud. And I didn't jive with that. I just thought like, ugh, too loud, too raucous. I shied away from it. I mean, I got to appreciate it as I got older because I could jump into the fun. But when I was a child, I didn't really understand what that was all about. I mean, and the loudness wasn't anger. It was just cultural loudness, coming from an Italian family. So yeah, it's interesting, the dynamic of it all.
Yeah, well, I mean, and in England for me, where I grew up, I found that honestly, and I look back now, the women were pretty reserved. They were very proper.
Yeah.
They were making the tea for the husband. I remember once I was 16 and I was at my now obviously ex-boyfriend, and I was in his house, and the dad and the mom were sitting on the couch. And then the father says, or the dad says, he goes, will you, I'm not going to say her name, but the mother's name, can you go and make me a cup of tea? There was okay, it was just a simple thing, but there was something about the way he said it and how she was also relaxing with him, and how she just jumped up and ran in the kitchen and put the kettle on. And I looked at him and I went, well, why can't you just get up and do it yourself? You've got 2 legs and arms. I mean, why does she have to get up and do this for you? I noticed that this happens. You never make a cup of tea and she always does it on command. I remember I was 16 and I was just like furious. I couldn't
Yeah,
understand.
it's so funny. Yeah, it reminds me when I was 19 and one of my first trips to Europe was with my boyfriend who was born in Ireland, but then came here when he was 6 or so. And we went on a journey to visit his grandfather who he hadn't seen. He was in his 20s, early 20s, and I was 19, and it was my first journey there. And his grandfather lived in a like a 2-room flat, and it was winter, it was cold, and there was like a little wood burning stove in the middle of the living room. They had no ice cubes or anything like that. But I remember it was his uncle, his aunt, and the grandfather. And the men started speaking, and they looked at me, and the uncle said, "Why don't you go into the kitchen with Claire?" Actually, her name was Claire,
Of
with
course.
Claire, and do whatever. And I looked at him and I said, no.
Yeah.
No, I want to sit here with my boyfriend and hear stories about his grandfather because he hadn't seen him in so many years. Like, this is where the action was, not in the kitchen boiling water or doing whatever they were doing. I don't know.
And that's how I was. I wanted to be with
Rebellious
everyone.
reaction. It's like, no, I don't. And of course, I love being in the kitchen, and I would have loved at some other time to maybe go with the ladies and whatever. But I want to be in the center of the action. Yeah.
Well,
Oh
well,
my God, I forgot about that story. Yeah.
the thing that I think is just funny is how we're expected, well, not necessarily now. I think that has changed. But back then, there was that
Well, it's
expectation that
someone.
that was the role of the woman, that when something needed to be done in the kitchen, the woman went and did it. I remember when I first lived, my first boyfriend I lived with, and I think I was like 17 and a half. And this is in London, girls. But and his name was, I'm going to say his name is Danny. He was the love of my life back then. And so I had to leave home. So it's a long story, but he said, well, maybe I can come and live with you. Remember, I'm 17 and a half and I'm moving out, and I had no choice. I had to leave. I was asked to leave. But anyway, so he says, I'm going to come and live with you and I'm going to help you. And I said, and I was like, well, we could do that, but there's a few rules. And he goes, okay. I said, first of all, you have to do your own laundry. You need to keep the house clean. That means you need to be in charge of vacuuming. I don't iron. So you want anything ironed, you have to do it. I gave him all these I gave him a list of all his requirements for living with me. And I was like,
Oh my Lord.
God bless
We've
him.
never discussed this before, right? We've never discussed this, but when I was, a professional woman. I mean, I still am, but it was my first, I don't know, my 5th year of being a doctor in New York City, and I was living with my, you know, husband to be. And I would get up every morning and iron my clothes so I'd look really spiffy. That was, I don't love ironing clothes, but I would do it every morning so I'd look spiffy. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, I've got a couple of shirts you can iron for me." I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not your ironer. I do it because I have to do it. Well, lo and behold, he was like, "Oh, please, please, I need this white shirt ironed." And I ironed it. And I swear it was not on purpose, but I did burn it.
I love it. I love it.
And he never asked me to iron it.
And that is the classic girls, if you're not into ironing, because some people love ironing, but I always say
A labor of love. It was only a
just
labor
like
of
burn something or shrink it in the wash. It will always, because that's what they do to us, the ones that don't want to do that. That when you ask them to do the laundry, ask them to do something, they will make sure that something goes wrong, so that in the end you kind of go, oh, God, I'll take care of it. But that is just a game, everyone. That is just a trick that they have up their sleeves. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by it.
So we have so much more in common than we never knew, Claire. After 20 years, we're sharing these stories back and forth. And it may be that every woman has a story like this, right?
Well, and that would be great. We would love to hear your stories out there. And because
Yes.
I think we all have some fun stories to share, especially in the area of friendships and relationships and all the little things that we've stood for as women as we've changed and we've grown. But
Well, women on the whole, I mean, we haven't had the right to vote for very long. we haven't really been in the workforce very long. I mean, when you think about history, I mean, we're looking back 100 years, we're looking back 50 years. I mean, this is really new in the lifetime of women being empowered and having these conversations and going kind of deep into the heart of the matter, right?
Right.
Because there was shame, there were secrets, there was, I felt that for a lot of my life. Oh, don't tell anybody, don't share your secrets, don't reveal your pain. And so it's a process. But now I think, girls are more likely to share things, but I'm not sure what, I look at some of these reality shows that people watch, and I think, nah, that's just fake.
Well,
That's
yeah,
not real. That's not getting to the heart of the matter. That's getting to the kind of the superficiality of it. Like,
and there's a lot of that in reality shows, and we know that because they need ratings and they have to be, it has to be spectacular, and that's not always life. Sometimes life is just boring. I mean, it's mundane, and sometimes there's drama, but it's not always so dramatic. um but and I think that's what this show's all about, is being real, being authentic, having a platform where we can share our authenticity and invite all of you to share your authenticity too, so we can have like a safe place to be our authentic selves and be accepted as women and
yeah,
talk about this stuff.
talk about it. And, again, our heart's desire is really to have this conversation with younger women, as the elder wise women that have gone through life experiences and wound up on the other side of it. Like, let's engage young women to have this conversation. That's what I'm excited about, because
But
you don't necessarily need to go through the pain and the trauma. And if you're going through pain and trauma, then, we can have conversations to really uplift you out of that, so you're not stuck in that muck and mire for very long. I mean, sometimes we all have to walk through our own path, but we can help and support each other through the journey. And I think
yeah,
that's what I
and
like here.
we need each other, Nene. That's the thing. We need each other as women. There's no doubt in my whole entire that I would not have made it through some of the challenges and crap that life has thrown my way, that we all get. It comes our way. None of us escape
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
crap on some way, shape, or form. Without my girlfriends, without these women in my life that I knew really had my back. And
Yeah.
and I look back now, of course, when I thought I didn't have any friends, to realize that actually I had some really awesome women friends. And guess what? They're still my friends. Like some I've known for 45 years. Like
Yeah.
it's
And I think we're the same
amazing.
in that, because that's how we are too. I'm not really that person that has people that live next door to me, and that's my best friend. I have friends that are around the world.
Me
And I
too.
may not see them for a year or 2 years or 5 years, but when we reconnect, it's like there's no time has passed. And we know that you and I have had that as well. I mean, we don't talk every day, we don't talk every month. Sometimes we've gone a really long time without
Yeah,
speaking.
literally. Sometimes a few years because we've been so busy. We'll constantly be texting going, or okay, can we speak this week? Or I'll call her, leave a voicemail, and then she'll call me and leave a voicemail, and we just phone tag for like ever, but we never actually speak to each other.
Yeah.
So but I actually had a situation yesterday where there was this lady that I met 5 years ago at the One World Trade Center or something, whatever it's called, in New York, and I was there with my aunt from England, and she we connected. Like, she was the server at the restaurant on the 100th floor or wherever it was, and we just had this heart connection. All of us had this heart connection with her, and so we exchanged numbers and we became friends. But then, like, so for a few years we were like hanging out and talking all the time, and then there was just like a couple of years where we went in different directions. I became a grandmother, she got a new boyfriend, she totally changed her career and her life. And then on for Thanksgiving, she sent me this Thanksgiving message. So I called her last night. We just had this, like, oh my God, it was just a fabulous call. We connected right from where we left off. And but then we had this new layer to share with each other, this new growth we'd both gone through, which we got to really support each other through. And I thought, this is a great girlfriend. Like, you meet someone and you just the test of time is really what shows you the friends that are really there for you versus the ones that fall away. And that's okay too. You have friends and sometimes they just not, you know, you have your time together and then it just doesn't work out. And I think that's another thing with friendship, is that when a friendship kind of comes to an end, or a relationship comes to an end, it's okay.
Okay, exactly.
It's so okay, because
Just
guess
let it
what?
go, let it go, let it
I
go.
know, but I gotta say this one thing. Guess what? Because once they have gone, a new one will come in.
Right. You create.
Every time, without a doubt. We
Yeah.
will never be left alone
That's
unless
the
we
biggest
100%.
lesson, isn't it? Letting go, releasing and saying, let it go. Don't hold on. I mean, how many times let me make it better. Let me try to do something. It was my fault, or it was like their fault. It was like no blame, no gain, no blame. Let it go, because new things need to come in. And this is definitely a time now for new things to come in and release.
Yeah, I agree.
I think on the next episode, Claire, let's discuss maybe some of that. We have such strong spiritual value system, everything from, spirituality to, we were both raised, somewhat in a religious setting, and have gone from that to spirituality and soul and
Yeah,
angel. So
let's
I'd
talk
love to
about that.
delve into that in episode
Let's
3.
talk about that. I think I would love to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, God,
Please
everyone.
enjoy this. Please like us, share it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be posting it on Facebook as well. We're doing Instagram, TV. We're just ready and jumping in.
Yeah,
So join the conversation, join our community under the red tent where wise women speak. If you'd like us to speak about something in particular, or if you'd like to be a guest on our show, just drop us a line, let us know.
yeah, we would love it.
Yeah, thank
Anyway,
you.
lots of love, everyone.
Love
Mwah,
you.
have a beautiful day.
Love you.
Bye.
Stop.